Hello, I'm Rowena Hicks. Join me today as we look at burning out more than once. That's my story, and we're going to dig into this a little bit. See, is it possible? And what can we do to try and avoid it, both in ourselves and in those who are perhaps around us struggling and on the verge of burnout? I don't know what burnout looks like for you or for those around you, but in each of us, it's very different. And the reason I've chosen this topic today is basically because whatever your job, whether you've burnt out before or not, it is possible to burn out more than once. And I guess today I want to talk about how we might be able to avoid it. And if there are some keys to look at, to be aware of, to watch for, that might give you an idea that it's approaching you again and how to stop it. The reason I've chosen today is because I am working really hard at the moment. And on top of that, a lot of stuff at home is going on. So I've just been divorced. I'm moving out of my home that I moved into with my ex-husband. And I'm trying to buy a flat. It's not going quite as well as I'd hoped. And at the same time, I'm putting my lovely parents into a home. And along with all the other stuff that comes with children and life, it has been a real lot to juggle, and nothing's quite worked how I wanted and how I hoped. And I've been watching symptoms coming back for myself, the constant crying, the inability to make decisions. Sometimes some physical symptoms come back for me. I have friends who get migraines. For me, it's much more numbness in my limbs and things like that. I've not been sleeping at all. I was awake for 2 hours, wide awake. I saw my clock at 1:30 this morning. I tried various different sort of meditation listening devices. I tried reading my book. I was so awake. My brain just was buzzing. I don't know when I finally fell asleep after the 2 hours when I turned my light off again to try, but I am aware when I wake up, I'm exhausted. So warning signs for me. So I thought I'd talk about keys to managing that, because I need to put it into practice as much as any of us do, because we're all learning all the time, aren't we? And I think if we stop learning, we're not going to grow and we're not going to do better next time. So I know I have a tendency to be very driven and to be a rescuer and all those types of things. I'm very conscientious. And I need to learn to do life differently now, and what it means to look after me sometimes. And for me, the biggest challenge, I think, is saying no. And sometimes if I put my foot down and say no, or say I can't do that at the moment, so I'm putting in some boundaries for me to protect me, those around me don't like it. Because it's a habit for me, they're very used to me acting in that way. So I've enabled it. It's not their fault, it's my fault. I've always said, oh, okay, either to keep the peace or to be the rescuer that I love being. It's in my DNA, if you like. But when you start saying, actually, no, I'm not going to do that, or I can't do that at the moment, or why don't you do that? Well, there are different ways, aren't there, of responding, but you can get a little bit of flack for that. So prepare for it if you're going to stand up and put yourself first sometimes. So the first key for me is trying to put in a boundary to say no, or not now, or perhaps we could do this a different way, because I can't do that at the moment. I'm already right up to here overloaded. You don't need to say that to them. It's not their business, and they don't want to know anyway, because chances are they're stressed too. But actually, for me, I know that when I get full, I need to start saying no, and also sometimes asking for help. And it's much harder to ask for help than it is to offer help. But it's a very, very powerful tool, especially in developing relationships, building trust with your friends and your colleagues. So what else really helps? Are you managing your time? So I've watched my diary for the last week, where I have been running all over the place trying to get my parents moved home into the home and packing up their house and organizing whatever that needs and sending emails and whatever, on top of trying to work. And I noticed I didn't go to the gym. I noticed I didn't eat very well. I noticed that I did ask occasionally for help, but not very much. And my work suffered hugely. It's taken a real toll. And, if I don't work, I don't get paid. So how do you manage your time better? If you are very intentional with your day, you will put in a walk with a friend. You will put in 20 minutes for lunch. We're not talking massive things here, a gym time maybe, but some things for you that fill your bucket, fill your tank, some things that matter to you need to be in every day. It seems so obvious, doesn't it? But we don't prioritize ourselves. And I teach on this, and I haven't done it in the last week. How annoying is that? I've done what I felt was right to do in lots of ways, but actually I forgot to look after myself in that. Huge lesson for me. Constant. We're always learning, aren't we? So are you scheduling things into your day, into your week? I spoke to a really busy teacher. I think I've mentioned it before. And she, into her diary, when she looked at her week, she put her gym sessions, she put meal planning, she put all these very proactive things in to make sure she was managing her week well. Huge difference for her. And yes, her marking had to fit in and all the other things that she had to juggle in her life, but she had those real priorities in that kept her balanced, if you like, and thriving. What about habits? So this last week, I've often been trying to do 3 things at the same time. And I know we all like to think we're great at multitasking, but actually we're probably not. That is the reality. That's the research. In fact, what is much more effective is to do one thing at a time and then go on to the next one thing, get it done, the next one thing. And it's like, why don't I do it? When I get stressed and overwhelmed, I start again to try and juggle those 3, 4, 5, 6 things at the same time. And then you don't do anything very well. You're very stressed doing it all. Ooh, you need to breathe and think, right, one thing at a time. So simple, but so effective. What about mindset? Do you think when you get overwhelmed, I just can't do this, I don't know how I'm going to do it? What about what's one thing I could do towards achieving this apparently huge task? Could I take one step to doing it? Or if I look at this task I've got to do that I'm really dreading, that I have pretty negative mindset about, could you turn it on its head and say, okay, what's the solution here? How can I learn something, do it better, and get it done? Is there someone I could ask to help with this? Do you see the shift in the self-talk and the mindset there? So again, it's a really simple, small thing, but rather than tearing your hair out, going, how am I going to do it? Think of practical solutions. And tell yourself you can do it. You might just need to break it down into small tasks. There's lots of different points in there. I could do a teaching on just that thing in itself. But the idea is that you're looking at a change in mindset, change in self-talk. What about self-awareness? My journal this week has been really messy. It's been up and down and asking myself why I'm feeling so overwhelmed about it all and what are the triggers and what can I put in place to help it and what are the things I can be grateful for. And one of the things I've started writing in it is what could I have done better today? How could I have done something differently? Perhaps I could have spoken to someone a bit more gently and kindly or thoughtfully. Because I know when we're overwhelmed and heading for burnout, we often don't have that filter on of our integrity or our kindness, our thoughtfulness, do we? And I know a couple of times this week I've lost it. And I've had to apologize. But that has a toll on both us and the other person as well. So how about looking at that, about how self-aware are you being at the moment about your responses to other people? Because you might be saying, oh, that person was just so out of order and all da 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 da. But what about you? How did you respond? I know I'm feeling quite bad about that one today. And the last thing I just wanted to mention, which has really carried me through this week, is my friends. I have an amazing, trusted friendship group. And I would say to you, invest in time with your friends, because they'll be there for you when you need it. And you're there for them. It has to be two-way to be a healthy friendship, but to build trust, to build connection, and to build a really deep, meaningful relationship. Work on that, because that's what's going to carry you through the times where you can just shout to someone and say, hey, I'm not okay. And it's not always family who's going to do that. Friends are so important. I hope some of these keys have helped you today. I know it's a very personal journey for me from the last few weeks, but work and life and the juggle of it has such a huge impact, doesn't it? Because we go into work every day and we bring in whatever we're carrying from home. And then we go home and we carry with us whatever's happened at work. So we need to bring some balance, and some balance between work and home. So there is a life balance going on. And when the overwhelm gets really tough, I get it. We make mistakes, and we have to live with that and forgive ourselves for those mistakes, forgive those people who are impacted by it, and move on, don't we? Message me if you want to chat, because I'm really happy to chat through things that you're going through, because we're learning all the time and we can help each other. Thanks for listening. I hope you took something of value from today. If you want to connect, I'm at rowenahicks.com, or I have a Facebook group, which is Preventing Teacher Burnout. So I look forward to connecting to you at one of those.